Hello, everyone. Good evening. We'll wait for about 5 more minutes for a few more people to join in. Once the number is touching 20, we'll kick off. I think I'd given you a few exercises to execute in the last session. So I hope some of you have tried it and any hiccups or roadblocks along the way. Let me know, guys, if anyone has any queries from the last session. Yes, Anshul, Bhavesh, Geetika, Nihar, Pariniti, any queries, guys? Did you guys finish the exercises? Pranav, Prasanna, Radhika, Ritik, Sudarshan, and Zana. Any queries? I can't hear you, Zana. Zana, are you saying something?
Actually, I didn't attend the last lecture, so I have no queries.
Oh, okay. I understand. What about others? I hope you have gone through the recording of the last session, Janna, or did you not get a chance to do that?
No, I haven't gone through the recording.
All right. So we'll like for the remaining sessions, it will be a bit of hands-on heavy. Not only I will show things, I'll also give you a few things to try out because there is only one way of getting expertise at SQL, that is trying things out. So I expect you guys to have any queries or any blockers. If you face any issues, to come up with them at the beginning of the next session, so that we in that way we can clarify many common concerns as well, and then start off with the next connected concept. Because if I just show you things, you will understand the concept, you won't understand the application until you truly get your hands dirty and try that thing out. So I highly encourage giving the exercises a shot, even if it's just a simple reading of the question and trying something. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't matter. If it doesn't work, I'll give you the solutions. That always is an option, but at least try them out in your spare time so that you get a sense of what you are able to do and what is mm, beyond your current capability, so that we can slowly build that up. Hope that makes sense.
Okay, we will do that.
Yeah, and also like ping in your groups once na, for others to join in as well. I think the number is stagnated. Just ping once, in case a few people might have forgotten. Yes, Sudarshan. You can just type online SQL editor. It will give you a lot of options. Although do know that uh, MySQL isn't typically an option. It's SQLite, SQLite. Slight syntax differences, like you can't use concat functions and all. But broadly, the capabilities are the same in that online SQL editor. You can definitely use one. But the only problem will be the databases that we are using. that you won't have it available over there. You'll have to either run the create table commands, create them, establish the relationships, a lot of hassle, and then every time you refresh, it will also go away. I don't think we are getting any more people. So let's get started. Last session, we had seen the concept of triggers, if you guys remember. Who can quickly tell me what triggers are and what are the types of triggers that we have seen in SQL? Anyone? Yes, guys. Sachin, maybe Gitika. Is anyone? Why is everyone so mum today? Tired from office? I see no interaction today.
So triggers, it will invoke the um, stored procedures.
No, triggers are a type of stored procedures. They won't invoke stored procedures. Triggers are a different thing. Stored
For
procedures are different thing.
some reason, your voice is very feeble, sir. I'm
You
not sure
can't
if
hear
it's
me?
only for me. Uh,
Wait, let me check if the mic volume is accidentally lowered. Just give me a second. Let me figure it out. Hello. You guys can hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now you're
yes, sir.
clearly audible.
yeah,
Yes,
good.
sir.
Okay, good. The microphone volume had gone down. Anyways, what I was saying is, yes, what are triggers? Can anyone else give it a go? Yes.
Hmm.
Figures can be defined as a function of text.
Trigger is a SQL statement which is applied after or before the table transaction.
Okay, but this is just when a trigger is applied. What is a trigger?
No, the trigger is applied if any specific event occurs. So let's say I wanted to execute a particular thing, then this after some specific event occurs, then we are using
What
this
type of
trigger.
events we had discussed in the last session? So what type of events?
Insert, update,
Events like
Insert,
yeah,
update, and
delete,
update,
delete.
delete, insert.
or delete.
Yes, the DML operations, right? Insert, update, delete. Three DML operations, data manipulation events. So that is when a trigger is triggered actually. Then for each type of event, there are two further subclassifications. What are they?
So basically,
Row
before insert, after
level trigger
insert,
and statement
new
level
and
trigger.
old.
Not row level, statement level. Here that won't be applicable. Yes, anyone else was saying?
So basically, six types of right before insert, after insert, before
For
update,
every
after
event,
update.
for every event, there is a before and an after type of trigger, right? Before triggers will enact before that actual data manipulation takes place in the underlying table. After, as the name suggests, will be after the actual operation takes place, right? And the row level and statement level trigger are just it's just another way altogether of classifying triggers. It is based on how many times a particular trigger is invoked. What is the difference between row level and statement level in that regard, guys?
So row level, like it affects each every row where we make any DML operation, but statement level,
It
it
doesn't
like
affect every row. It gets invoked
invoked.
upon
Yes,
every row affected. A row level trigger, let's say there are 10 rows affected, a row level trigger will get invoked 10 times, right? Versus a statement level trigger, what will be the case?
statement level trigger, like it is executed for each you can say transaction, like each time you run the code.
Not transaction. Each time you run a trigger, right? A trigger is each time you not don't call it a transaction. Transaction can be a bunch of SQL statements. It's not exactly correct to say triggers are associated with transactions. Trigger is associated with an operation. There is a fundamental difference between a transaction and an operation. Operation is always atomic or singular in nature. Transaction can contain one or more operations. Triggers are associated with operations, DML operations to be very specific, not with transactions. So for every DML operation being performed, if the trigger is getting called exactly once only, once per statement or once per operation, DML operation, that's a statement level trigger. Doesn't matter how many rows in the table that statement or operation is affecting. Can be one, can be 100, can be million, but that trigger will get invoked only once. That's a statement level trigger. In MySQL, no need to be confused. There is no statement level trigger concept. In MySQL, all triggers are row level. And we denote that in the trigger syntax itself by writing for each row. That indicates it's a row level trigger. I hope that's clear.
So basically, we can say that like if you have to insert 1500 rows, so row level trigger will execute 1500 times, right?
Correct.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
Versus if the rows, 1500 rows are getting inserted by a single insert into statement, then a statement level trigger will get run how many times? Statement level.
Only once.
Correct. Only once. Correct. That is absolutely right. That's basically triggers. I'll just quickly again reshare my screen and maybe just in a minute skim through what we had seen in the last session. And this is precisely why I ask you guys to just try out the exercises because that will refresh your memories as well. So maybe before the Tuesday session, whenever you get time on a Saturday or Sunday, just spend half an hour or an hour to try out the exercises. Doesn't matter if it gets solved or not. Really, that's not a problem. But just trying it out will help you recollect the concepts and also give you a feel of how applying it looks like. What are the challenges? In concept, in theory, everything seems easy. During applying, not so much. Right, we had taken this example of accounts. Remember that withdrawal thing. We had seen the types of triggers, right? Two types. Then this is an independent that row level statement level trigger. Advantages of triggers. We had talked about disadvantages of triggers. We had then seen syntax of triggers, and we had also seen a couple of real trigger examples in VS Code. We had also talked about old and new modifiers that can be used with triggers. What is that? Can anyone tell me what is old and what is new? Yes, guys.
It will retain the value before inserting.
It doesn't always have to be insert. Triggers can be associated with insert, update, or delete, right? Old quite simply means the value before the DML operation takes place. Correct? New represents the value that will be in the table after the actual DML operation takes place. It can be insert, can be update, can be delete. So old refers to existing value. In a way, you can think of that. Old means existing value. New means updated value or uh, to uh, to be value, right?
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
in case of insert, do we have an old value?
No.
No. We are
Why
going to
not?
add new. We are going to insert a new value, right?
New row, right? So there
New
is
row.
no
There
old,
won't be
yes,
any old value.
correct. The row doesn't even exist. Correct? And in case of delete, similarly, which type of value do we not have?
New will not be there.
New will not be.
Correct. New will not be there. Good. And in case of update,
No.
We will have both the values.
Old and new both will be existing.
Old and new.
Correct. Perfect. Yes, that's exactly the summary of old and new. Right? We can then use it inside. Where can we use old and new exactly? Can we use it in the DML operation?
In the triggers,
We can use old and new only inside the triggers body. Remember that. Okay. And one more restriction we had discussed. What can we not do using a trigger? What is not possible?
Um, like not null. That validation is not possible, right?
Validation, but those are simple things. I had explicitly told about one more thing. So let's say trigger is working upon accounts table. Okay. The trigger got triggered because of an operation on accounts table. So using the trigger, can I make any changes in the same accounts table?
No, sir. It needs to be a different table than the DML operation platform.
Yes, because why can't I don't not make? Because that table is currently locked for writing. So using the same trigger, you cannot make a change to the same table on which the trigger was invoked. That's a restriction. Okay.
unique check and foreign key all cannot be used.
Sorry.
Like not null, unique check and foreign key.
Those things, so anyways, those are yes, lesser. Anyways, that will be a syntax level error when you are declaring in itself. But this error will be a runtime error. You will not be able to catch it. So, uh,
So how do we make sure like we need to see if the database is not open before writing the trigger?
as in,
How to see that the database is free for us to work on, like triggers?
no, you cannot see. You don't need to see. You just have to keep in mind that let's say I have declared a trigger on accounts table. In the trigger body, I'm not performing any DML operation on the same accounts table. That's all you have to take care of. Got it? Yeah. Any other table is fine. That doesn't really matter. Sometimes, however, I'll give you a complex situation. Having said that, I remember a production issue that was caused once because not because someone performed a DML operation directly on the same table. What happened was, and this was an exact scenario for Optum. Let's say trigger was defined on table A. There are like 10, 20 other tables. Someone wrote the trigger, like inside the body of the trigger, they performed another insert operation on table C, different table. So perfectly fine to do that. You are not affecting table A. They wrote it on table C, that's all fine. But a different team had worked on that database before. And while like it they failed to notice that they were performing an insert operation on table C. So table C had a trigger that whenever insert operation was performed, it will write something or exactly update something, actually, if I remember, update something in table A. So it created a cyclic dependency. It didn't show up in the error logs. It didn't give any reason for failure, but the trigger simply failed all the time. So you get it how a cyclic situation can come up and why triggers are also risky. You might still follow the rule and you might just do an operation from on a different table, but that table itself might try to write something into this table A, right? So it can create a cyclic dependency, and that onus is on the developer. MySQL will not do anything to warn you about it or to tell you about this problem. That you have to remember that directly or indirectly you should not write anything into the same table while a trigger is getting enacted. Clear?
But will we be able to see like what all triggers are there in the
Yes, you can show triggers option. Show command shows you all the triggers.
Okay.
In Workbench you can even go to each data, you can go to database and see all the triggers defined. let me in fact, I don't think I had shown that to you in the last session. Let me do that. Where you can see triggers in GUI interfaces. Okay. So let me share my workbench window. I hope you're able to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, here you have classic models database. In database, you can see tables, right? Similarly, you can see like in on a database level, there are four important things: tables, views. Views we will see later after one or two sessions, maybe in the last one. Stored procedures and functions. You see that? View tables, stored views, stored procedures, and functions. There isn't a separate place to see a trigger, but you can still see it. Can you guess where?
Store procedures.
Why?
It also has set of comments like
Trigger is nothing but a special type of stored procedure itself, right? We had talked about that. Trigger is nothing but a special type of stored procedure. Clear?
yeah.
Okay, so you can see the triggers here itself. These are also stored procedures. Both of them will show up over here. Now, since it doesn't tell you upon first glance, if I just see the stored procedures or triggers, it doesn't tell me, right, that which table is this trigger defined on. I don't get to see that info because I think I had not mentioned this in the last session. Stored procedures, stored functions, and triggers, basically all kinds of stored routines, they are stored on a database level. Even though triggers are associated with tables, they don't get stored inside tables or in a table level. They get stored on a on the database level itself, right? So just like tables, you can export and import stored procedures, triggers, and stored functions, all stored routines. You can export and import them. You can even grant granular access using access management. Let's say user one can only access these stored procedures or alter them, cannot delete any stored procedure or this particular procedure, that all of that is possible, right? So you can, but remember that triggers are not volatile, neither are stored procedures or stored functions. Even if you log off or your session gets disconnected, they get stored in a database level. So triggers are not stored on table level, they're stored in database level. Remember that. And that's why reading the documentation before you jump into an existing project becomes very important. Let's say you are a newbie, you might forget to check out all the triggers, all the stored procedures, error handlers which are defined, views which are there on the database level. You might be reinventing the wheel. So you have to go through, inspect the database properly end to end using a tool, graphical user interface like this, and reading the documentation, database documentation or manual that exists out there, so that you know all about the database, what are the restrictions, rules, accesses, conventions being followed. Then you start working on it. It can take a day or two, it can even take a week, doesn't matter. Never start directly jumping into work on an existing database without knowing the ins and outs of it entirely. That can lead to catastrophic errors, especially if you are working on a on a rather DML kind of operation, which can alter the data or the structures in the table in the database. Assume responsibility and always know the database in and out first, even it might take time. Then start working on it. That way, you can at least ensure things do not break and these kind of unexpected issues do not occur. Is that clear?
These runtime errors will be cached in the logs, right? Or will that?
Yes, but SQL isn't the most amicable one when it comes to telling you exactly why the error occurred. The
Okay.
error misses some is a hit and a miss. Sometimes it tells you, sometimes it just gives you random errors, which has nothing to do with the actual root cause. Root cause. Okay.
Okay.
SQL isn't really error friendly in that way, debugging friendly rather. If you know, you know, that comes with experience, but if you follow these rules, that will let you avoid a lot of these situations. I hope I'm clear. Hmm. We have explained this. I hope you have gone through this whiteboard. Let's talk about, and I had asked you guys to research as well, but let's see where you can use each type of trigger. Let's consider a payroll management system or an organization management system, an ERP system, let's say. Uh, right. So where you can use different kind of triggers. This is just to give you an idea of what are the applications. There are several applications of each type of triggers, but let's discuss a few. So before insert trigger, let's consider a payroll management system. When you hire a new employee, right? When you hire a fresher, let's say as a company, TCS, you're hiring freshers, right? In that case, if the fresher will have several data points like percentile, maybe their 12 score, their 10 score. A company collects all of this information, right? Their branch, their college. One of the fields you might have seen in a lot of MNCs is the number of backlogs, right? So certain companies have different threshold. Some companies, even some colleges, let's say you're going for MS or so MBA abroad, then they evaluate your transcript. Most of the colleges, let's say in US, they allow up to two backlogs, right? Uh, in that case, if the person has three or four backlogs, that person's record should not be created. That person should not be allowed for further processing. Similarly, let's say a company like Infosys has, I don't know how much exactly, three or four, if I remember, backlogs max threshold. If you have more than that at any point in your graduation, you are not allowed simply for an intake by the company. So on a database level, how do you enforce this constant so that you can say inconsistent data or the unscrupulous data doesn't make it through to the database in the first place? It will be someone's job to verify, but as developers, you cannot rely on that. You have to make sure these integrity checks are placed on different levels, backend level, front end level, and database level. Because the data that makes it to the database becomes persistent or permanent, and the data can't be changed. So you can define triggers, like I told you. I think we had discussed this briefly in the last session as well. Before insert triggers can be defined, correct? So if you have a trigger in place, if it's a before insert trigger, while you are inserting this new employee record, in the trigger body, you can check for their backlogs. If it is greater than 2, for example, then you can manually cause an error, manually throw an error, which will prevent the underlying insert operation. If any error occurs in the before insert trigger, the subsequent insert operation also fails. Insert operation fails means the employee's record wasn't created. So it's a very simple way of preventing such kind of records or data to come into your database. I hope this is clear.
Yes.
Similarly, an application of after insert trigger, right? Same context that hiring a new employee. Okay. After the employee record is created, we can use the employee number. So, every employee in an organization or every student in a college gets a unique ID like registration number or employee ID. Correct? Everyone will be having that. And that will only get created once the employee records are created in the database, in the employee management system. Correct? Before that, you do not have any employee ID, but that employee ID is used in a lot of places, like let's say in the payroll management system, FreshBooks. Employee ID will be needed for sure. In let's say vehicle al- allocation or maybe allowance, you are given a parking permit. For that, employee ID will be needed. You are given food coupons. Again, employee ID will be needed. So in a lot of other tables, your record can only be created once your record is created in the employee table. So instead of doing it manually, here after insert triggers become a very good option, right? Your employee record is created, then you actually get an employee ID against your name. Now after insert triggers can be defined to write new records or new entries into these, let's say food coupon table, into parking table, into payroll table, right? I hope this is clear again, everyone.
Yeah, it is clear.
Yes, sir.
So this kind of automates the process. It's not that without trigger you can't achieve this functionality. Of course you can. You can have queries. Then you have to write the logic to manually fire those queries in that sequence. First you have to create the employee record, make sure it is created, and then run those queries using fetching the employee's ID. Instead of doing all of that, I can define after insert trigger. And there are different benefits also of defining it in a trigger level. Benefits are you do not have to fire queries from the backend, so it saves time through your transportation layer. Latency is reduced. That queries are saved and passed already in the database, so those are actually inherently faster than sending queries from backend and sending back results. Lot of different advantages also you get with triggers. In like between 2000 to 2012 to 15, right? Triggers were like everything. Where the fashion statement in databases. If you do not know how to work with triggers, how to maintain them, how to use them, it would be a big deal. Triggers were like all encompassing. Triggers were very, very important. Any database, you will see lesser queries, more triggers. Any production grade database has around 1,000 triggers on average. Any large scale company for one vertical business vertical, if it's maintaining a database, it will have at least 1,000 triggers internally. Just to give you an idea of the scale of operations.
I have a doubt. Like once you said that there's like if it show some kind of error, then the whole process will roll back, right?
That's in case of before insert trigger, not after insert. After insert, if something goes back, the database operation still happens. After triggers have the, it actually depends on database to database. I'm talking specifically about MySQL. In MySQL, even if after insert fails, version 5.7 or before will not roll back the DML operation. Version 8 onwards, it will actually roll back the DML operation as well. That insert operation. Got that?
In a latest version, it roll back the before
Yes.
insert trigger also.
Yeah,
Okay.
not before insert, the insert operation, you mean,
The
right?
insert operation. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So currently they don't advise to use trigger, is it? Like it's all done programmatically?
Not much, like, but the reliance on triggers has gone down because it was becoming difficult to debug. And there is a larger reason why this has gone down. Earlier, databases used to be on-prem or
Oh.
at least largely centralized. But with the modern kind of uses, almost everything is on the cloud. And decentralized as much as possible. There is sharding, replication. Uh, for example, GitHub has its database sharded across 4 continents, running parallelly, right? So in that case, having then triggers and making sure several replicas, making sure trigger actually worked for all replicas is a bit of a pain actually. Going through logs, auditing on a daily basis takes a lot of processing power. It's better to run it as normal operation, things as much as possible, so that at least you get an appropriate confirmation whether the operation passed or failed. So most of these things can be done through scripting, maybe using a bash script, maybe using even Python scripting, maybe using any backend scripting. And the processing power has gone up by a lot, so has network speeds. So it's not really a challenge as before to transport queries or database operations. So the reliance on triggers has really gone down a lot as compared to before.
Got it.
Clear?
Clear.
Similarly, what can be an application of before update trigger? Let's say you are changing the department of an employee. An employee got promoted or maybe shifted, moved from one department to another. Happens all the time, right? So before updating the department, you should validate if let's say someone has typed the department name wrong for some reason, spelling error, right? So you should validate if the new department is present in your department's list or not, right? Or let's say you are giving a designation after promotion to an employee, you should validate whether it's in the list of permissible designations in your company or not. So simple check, but an important one. So can be done with the help of before update trigger, right? Similarly, one other case can be while salary hike. Let's say someone's salary was 40,000 rupees per month, Now after hike, it's supposed to be 60,000 rupees per month. But so whoever was making this change, the HR, instead of typing 60,000, they made a mistake and typed 6,000. Okay, they missed a zero. Human error can happen. If you do not have this validation in place, that salary will be reflected. Nobody will even check. And at the time of getting salary, that person will get 6,000, then complaint will be filed, and then it will be changed retroactively. And then your database needs one more operation to update it. The logs, audits, everything will become more complicated thus. Uh, Rather than doing all of this, there must be a minimum salary for every designation or department in your company. Every good company has that policy, right? Let's say for manager position, this is the range, minimum and maximum. Between that, different managers can have different salaries, but this is the minimum that a manager will earn in, let's say, XYZ company, and this is the maximum that a manager designation can earn in XYZ company. You can set that as validation rule. While updating the salary, let's say this person moved to senior analyst role, right? Salary can't be less than, let's say, as per your company policy, can't be less than 50,000. So 6,000, if somebody is mistakenly trying to update the salary 6,000, if you have this validation as a trigger, it will catch that. It will not allow the salary to be updated to this figure, right? So this is a good practice to enforce. Similarly, after update trigger example can be, let's say, after you update the salary of the employee, right? Company has its own expense, let's say, table called monthly expense or annual expense table. If you're increasing an employee salary, your expense as a company also is going up, right? So you should update the total, let's say, expense, salary expenses, monthly salary expenses, let's say, is an entry in that table. You have to update that figure as well. So you can do that again with the help of trigger. Why do write a manual query for that? Got it? The update triggers example. Yes.
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 Okay. Similarly, let's see before delete and after delete, an employee resigns, leaves the company. So when you delete an employee record, do you think a company fully deletes the employee's record forever? Does any company do that, or should any company do that?
No, they should update the status.
Update the status, or better than updating status, actually, a good point. There are two approaches here. One, you can update the status of the employee to resigned or no longer working, something like that. That then what will happen? The employee's record will still remain in the employee's table, correct? Yes.
Yes.
If you just update a mere status, the employee record still remains in the employees table. Then whenever you are performing operation like finding how many employees your organization has and all of those queries will be additionally complex. You cannot simply run a select count star from employees. Count star will give you this employee as well. Include this employee too. You have to run a conditional count star. Select count star from employees where employee status is equal to active. Something like that. All your queries will become complex. All your queries will need an unnecessary where clause for making sure that you run them only on active employees and not on inactive or resigned employees.
Uh,
So
we
this
can
is a
create a new table and
correct.
keep all those deleted
Uh,
records.
how will you do that? This is a better approach, but how will you move the record once the employees are leaving? Moving a record means deleting it from employees table and inserting it into, let's say, past employees. That new table is past employees, let's say, past employees table. So two operations, DML operations. One is delete and one is insert, correct? Is it
Yes.
right or wrong?
Yes.
Which one should happen first? Should you delete the employees record first, or should you first insert it into past employees table?
Insert and then
First insert.
Why?
not lose the data by
Sorry?
Once you
lose.
delete the data, it will be removed from the table.
Hmm. So why can't I delete first? Why should I insert first?
Then we don't
Because
have data, na? If we delete it.
Sorry?
Can we use ODR, sir? Like we can insert it up. we can insert after delete using old.
No, you can
Old
do
dot
that. You
delete.
can do both. You can insert after delete, you can insert before delete also. Which is the approach to take? That's what I'm asking. How to do it is later concern. Which approach you should take first?
First insert and then delete.
Yes.
That,
Why?
that because once you delete, you can't restore that data.
Correct. If anything goes wrong in the insert while inserting, things can go wrong, right? From time to time. You don't even have any data to fall back to. You have already deleted, right? So you can't refer to the record again unless you have a backup and then you need to dig into backup, logs, all of that. Why go through all of it? Simple logic says first insert into past employees. If the record is inserted, then delete it. Done. As simple as that. Right. Let's say you are going to, it's like this. Let's say you are sending an email. You have created a Word document, a report. You are sending it to your manager, right? You have attached it on in the mail and you are hitting the send button. Now, before you send the mail, is it a good practice to delete the file? You can do that. Nobody is stopping you from doing it. But in case the mail doesn't get sent or never arrives, or your manager asks you for the file again, not a good practice. So it's always a good practice. Simple common sense again. First insert it, make sure it's there, then delete it. And you can automate at least one of the two things. Anyways, you have to fire a delete query to delete this employee's record. You can have a before delete trigger, which will simply, when that delete query is performed, you don't need to do anything additional. You already have a trigger, before delete trigger, which takes or reads the value from this employee record and writes it into the past employees table. And this is perfectly fine to do because you are not working on the same table. You are writing into another different table, which is the past employees table. Make sense? This is an excellent use of before delete trigger. Clear, guys?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you are telling, we can do the validations and all after, before and after. And at the same time, you said that,
Validation is typically done in before. After is
yeah,
just additional things you do, side effects.
yeah, yeah,
Always
yeah,
in
agree.
done.
So,
Yes.
my question was like when we are doing validations and all, so
Hmm.
basically, we are impacting the performance. So, should we do all these validations in the code or we should prefer triggers?
Both. You should
Because
do it.
as per my
You should do
experience,
both.
whatever I have seen, most of the validations are done in the code, and then we trigger uh, insert, delete, or
You
maybe
should
DML.
do it in the code and you should do important validations in the trigger level as well. Both the layers, you should, as good application designers, remember, you should always treat each layer independent. Never think that, oh, I have taken care of this in the backend. I don't need to do here. When you're working on database, think like you are the only team in the company. It's your job to make sure the data is sacrosanct. Do not care for what is done in the backend or front end. Whatever you can do or need to do in the database layer, implement that. So if you start thinking from that light, then you will think, if not all, there is a trade-off you have to make. You should not do each and every minute validation in the database layer, like checking for uppercase, lowercase doesn't make much sense. But important business delicate operations, validations, you should definitely do, which if you don't do later on, definitely will come back to haunt you at some point of time, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line. So important critical validations should always be done again in the database level. This is known as redundancy. Don't worry much about performance. It's a myth. These days, hardware, whatever you use, be it cloud or on-prem, is powerful enough to take care of these simple things. This is a long back thing in the 2005 6. People used to worry about performance, that big O optimization, even talking about algorithms. Now you will hardly hear people worrying about that unless it's
So,
a embedded
uh,
system.
okay,
It's
so we can say that such validations are not going to impact performance, right?
negligible. Negligible.
Okay, okay.
Okay. After delete trigger, then what is an application? Same scenario, employee leaving the company, right? So let's say after an employee leaves the company, their details are added to the alumni table, right? There must be an alumni table as well, or college companies, they have their alumni table. So you don't need to uh, do it proactively, because adding an alumni can take some time. It's not always instantaneous. And the employee record being deleted need not be stopped because their records cannot be inserted into alumni table. It's fine. It can later on be added from the logs also if something fails. So these non-critical things you can do in the after delete triggers. Or sending out maybe an email to the employee, so farewell and all of that, and wishing them best in the career. All of that can be done in the after delete. It's not critical enough, but at the same time, you can automate it to a degree by using triggers and not manual operations. Make sense? Is it clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any doubts, any queries from triggers? Any questions? No? Then let us write a trigger actually. Let me show it to you. I think I had not run it last time, so let me run that. We'll take an update trigger. Okay. Manually, Bhaskar, you'll have to verify manually. Triggers don't give you any output. Okay. Now I will create an active connection here. Which database? Let's take classic models only. Okay. Let me inspect, select star from. What are the tables? Orders. Orders is there, right? Order details will be there. Right. Run. I have the order details. Let's say I will modify something, okay, in a particular order. I will modify quantity. Let's say a customer, they modified the quantity of the order. Yep. So this first row, 10100, I will make it 31. So this will be the update operation I will perform. Before that, I will define a trigger, right, for this update operation. What trigger? Now, before that, let me also show you. Select star from orders. Let's see if we can make a trigger order number, order date, ship date, comments. Okay. If I update, let me write a trigger. Whenever I update the quantity of an order, right? See in the orders table, there is a column called comments, right? I will add a comment here that quantity changed through customer care, or customer requested to change the quantity, something like that. Okay, makes sense.
Yes.
So I will automatically insert that comment over here. So let me do that for 10100. I think this has no comments. Yes, 10100 has no comments. Let me write a trigger which will perform this operation. First of all, can I do this? This is perfectly valid operation because the trigger is not working on the same table. Trigger is going to affect a different table. Correct?
Yes.
So I can do this. Now we had seen this. The syntax, let me copy this so that we save time. The trigger here. So I'll change the delimiter. Let's make it hash hash just for fun. Or hash is actually comment. And then dollar dollar. Yep. Delimiter dollar dollar. I will have it as dollar dollar here. Right. Create trigger. What should I name it? It is going to be before trigger or after trigger. It can be an after. I'm just inserting a comment. It's not important. So after order details update. Correct? And then if I want further operation, quantity change. Okay. After order details update, quantity change is the name of the trigger, entire trigger. And this type will be what? After update on which table? Order details, right? For each row, begin in not insert. I will update the comments, right? So what query I should write over here to update the comment? Tell me. Update what? Orders set comments is equal to customer requested to change the quantity of a product in the order. Okay. Where order number is equal to what?
Old dot.
New dot order number or old dot order number. In this case, both will be same. Doesn't matter because you are not changing order number. You can use anything. You can use old, you can use new. Both of them are going to be fine. And I can use either old or new because it's an update operation. So the operation which will trigger this trigger is an update operation. So in update, you have access to both old and new. It doesn't really matter. I hope this is clear. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So we have this operation. Now all I have to do is run. Order details after update.
Here you have used this table after update on order details.
Yes. So this trigger is associated with order details table. This order details table. See. So I am going to, how will this trigger be activated? So I will run an update statement on order details table. So order update, let's say update order details, then set quantity order is equal to 10, where order number is equal to 10,100 and product code equal to S10 1648, not 1648, 1749. 1749. I'll make it and quantity order to 31. Okay. I'm increasing the quantity by 1. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. So when I run this command, this trigger will activate. So there is no way of directly calling a trigger. I can only activate it indirectly by running the associated operation. The associated operation is update. Okay. Now, I have to first create the trigger. Before that, let me show you all triggers. Show triggers. Are there any triggers in this database currently?
No.
No. Run. Delimiter is changed. Run. Created. Then I will show triggers again. Delimiter change actually first. Delimiter back to semicolon. Change. Show triggers again. You see the trigger now? Trigger details.
Yes.
Now, before I run this trigger, I'll first show you the data in both the tables. Order details, current quantity is 30. And in orders table, for that same order, there is no comment. Okay. Now I run this update operation. It was successful. Okay. Let's see the order details table first. Quantity, did I change it? 10100 S. Oh, there is no product code with S10. It's S181749. Yep. Run affected rows 1. Okay. So I can copy actually both of these below. Order details. Yes, quantity is changed to 31. And if I go to orders, see, the comment is already inserted. Did you guys get it?
Yeah, but if there is no, like, with the mistake you have write product code wrong, so it's still successfully updated.
It will update, but you should check in that case affected rows. In that previous case, affected rows was 0. That means the update command ran without any hiccups, but it didn't really affect any rows in your table, in order details table. That's how update commands and delete commands run. You have to
Oh,
check for the affected rows. Okay?
yeah.
Because there was no syntax error with the command. It's just that I gave it a wrong input. That how will the command know that if the input you're giving is wrong or right? That's just a value. Clear?
Yep.
Update this remarks field in order details table in the trigger.
Sorry?
Is it possible? Like
Uh,
it's a comment field that you have updated in order details. Can
huh?
you do it on order table only? Like I'm just trying to imagine that scenario, that locking flow you
No,
explained.
you cannot. You cannot.
So where will it put lock? In which stage?
Here, when you are performing the update operation, right, it will lock the table, order details table. So inside the trigger body, anywhere in the trigger body, you cannot use order details table. Same table. See, same table means what? You have to check which table is the trigger associated with. The trigger is created on order details table. So in the trigger body, anywhere you cannot do any insert, update, or delete operation on the same order details table. Simple. Any other table is fine.
Okay.
You can read the same table. That's okay. You can read, but you cannot perform insert, update, delete.
Okay. So we can say as soon as the operation has been triggered, the lock has been,
Yes,
table has been logged. Okay.
exactly. Is it clear? You guys saw triggers in action? Yes? I don't think anyone has completed the previous exercises, so the same exercises still stand. I hope you have the links from the previous one. So please try to finish them by the next session, and then we will venture into stored procedures and stored functions. We'll finish them both in the next session itself. Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Just advice would be to go through the use of. I'll just show you, but you can, if you find some time, just to read the basic use of case, like things like if statement, things like case when, inside stored procedures. You can use them in stored procedures and triggers, all the places. So how is a loop used? Uh, how is a looping statement used inside a stored procedure? What is the condition for while loop, or how to declare it? That syntax. And the second, more advanced concept would be how to declare error handlers. How to first of all throw errors manually from stored routines, and how to also catch and error handle them. So if you can see these things, that will also be good. I will anyway show them to you, but with less time, I will have to speed run it a bit. So if you have the pre-idea, then this will be good. Same exercise link as before, Vidut. No different exercises. Same as the last one. I don't think anyone has completed.
Triggers can be written on views also, right?
Triggers can be written on?
Views instead of tables?
Yes, yes, they can be. Clear?
And within triggers also we can write error procedures, like handling the errors.
Yeah. You can. I had given couple of exercises. I think, let me just repaste the links of the exercise here. One, two. Okay. Clear, everyone? Okay. I hope you all are able to complete these exercises for the next session. Okay. See you guys in the next one. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I think the feedback link should be populated or the feedback forms. Please give your feedbacks over there. See you next week.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.